Good.
Mind if I cut this if it's not yours?
We'll call the July 18, 2022 meeting of Green Republic Board of Works and Safety to order at 5:30 p.m. First, before we get into it, I think it's probably appropriate for us to just pause for a minute. Our community's been under attack last evening, and we just want to let everybody know that our thoughts and prayers are with the families that were impacted by this tragedy, as well as the Good Samaritan, his family, and certainly our first responders and people who have been assisting in this, will continue to assist in this. So just want to let them know that Jason's here and a whole group of people from your department, a lot of other good agencies around the community. So we wish you well. Okay, roll call, please, Amanda.
Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Mr. Hoover.
Here.
Mr. Rutherford.
Here.
Minutes of the regular session of July 6th, our last meeting, have been distributed to members of the board. Is there any corrections, additions, or deletions from staff?
I move for approval. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. First on our agenda is Charles Sandwell, 1342 Thornhill Lane, a fence encroachment request. Mr. Sandwell, are you online with us? Is anybody here to address that? Well, Mark, can you help us
Speak
through
to
this?
it if you'd like. Yeah, it's a fence encroachment request like we often see. They're looking to move their current fence 8 feet further back into their yard. That would encroach into a 15-foot drainage and utility easement that's located adjacent to their northern property line. There is an existing storm sewer end section along that property line. There's aerials and some drawings that showcase all of that. And then the conditions we have listed there for approval are the standard conditions. There's the extra one there because there is an actual storm sewer in that easement, that the fence be located no closer than 5 feet from the existing storm sewer. And if allowed to cross, no post shall be within 4 feet of the line. But the other ones are the ones we typically see and discuss with homeowners.
Questions for Mark? I don't think the homeowner is able to be here. We usually ask if they have any concerns or questions about the commitments, recommended conditions.
Well, I would move for approval if the homeowner is agreeable to those conditions.
Would you move for approval even if he's not subject to those conditions?
No.
Well,
My department could coordinate with him and relay that these 5 conditions are a requirement, otherwise you have to come back before this board.
okay. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Further discussion? Hearing none. No questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next on our agenda is D and John Fraley, 1549 Chase Boulevard.
Yeah.
Mr. Fraley,
Yes.
come up here and just tell us what you'd like to do.
I'm wanting to, there's like a ditch back there, it's a easement.
Mhm.
And first I was going to put gravel in there and they said I couldn't do that because they said the gravel would plug up. So what I did, I built a bridge across it. And it's for a utility shed to set on top of, so everything's cleaned off underneath it. I did put rock under there a little bit just because I didn't want a mud hole. I built a fence, redo all my new fences and stuff back up where they were, except for the back part. I'm going to move it back of the building. I still own, according to the thing, like 15 more feet back there, but I'm not going the whole way.
Mr. Fraley, did you receive a memo from Jeff Weaver? Had some proposed conditions to this board. One of them was that the shed can't be located any closer than 7 feet from the existing storm sewer. Does that ring any bells with you?
Yeah, the way that they mapped that out, where the storm drain ran, it actually is almost clear up to the back of my house. And it runs down through my building, will be on the other side of it. And if you look at the way it runs, it runs underneath the deck and stuff of my neighbors. And where it runs right down against their house almost. So, I mean,
That's
I've
gonna
been
be,
there 15 years and nothing's ever happened back there.
that's gonna be a ways from your utility shed now, isn't it?
And my utility shed will be setting away from it. It'll be actually in front of my shed through my door. So if they had to do it, it'd be digging up like 4 or 5 feet from my house. So, I mean, it's building, if it would have to be moved, it's just a 10 or 12 shed.
And the way you've got it set up, at least the pictures we've got, it's something that could be moved if necessary, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other thing was the fence. I'm gonna put the fence back up where it was, because the old one was rotten. I'm putting up chain link. And I'm just gonna run it back a couple more feet back behind the shed.
Mark, any questions other than the conditions that have been recommended by Jeff Weaver?
No, I believe Mr. Weaver worked pretty closely with you in
Yeah.
making this work and coming up with the conditions that work. So if you haven't seen this memo, I think it's all stuff you've discussed with Mr. Weaver.
And Mr. Freya, those conditions are the shed be constructed on top of a removable support, which is what we discussed, that it be located no closer than 7 feet from the existing storm sewer. And then the condition that if should any work be necessary in that easement or by any of the utilities or by the city, that you'd be responsible for removal and replacement of the shed at your sole expense. And that before you start getting work done, that you notify Indiana 811 that we're digging to be done. And you don't have a problem with any of those conditions? Questions for Mr. Fraley, or is there a motion on this matter?
I move that we approve subject to those conditions. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys.
Have a good rest of your afternoon and evening. Next, let's go to Chad Christie, 2446 Columbus Parkway. Mr. Christie, are you here either in person or online?
Yes, I'm online, please.
Good afternoon. Tell us what you'd like to do.
The purpose of my request is to bury the discharge of my sump line to tie into a lateral drain that is existing at the back of my property. I currently have had an issue with my current sump line, and it's pushing water out the top. So all the water that comes out of the basement is now flooding the yard at the house, and it's a recurring cycle. When I've had people come out to quote me some new work, it's basically transplanting one problem to from my house to another part of my yard due to, lack of good grading, whatever it was. It transplants the problem from one spot to another. So I did find that there is a lateral drain back there. After talking to Greenwood Engineering, it has come to my attention that all, new houses going forward are required to attach to a lateral drain. So I'm just looking to attach mine to an existing lateral drain to basically come to, current standards.
Okay. Have you received a memo from Jeff Weaver of the city regarding this matter? That you got?
I believe so.
Okay. There are some conditions in Jeff Weaver's memo about the sump pump hookup line, and that sort of are standard conditions that if any work's necessary to be done, that it would be done at your expense if it has to be removed. Any of those problems create any problems for you?
No, and I actually utilized the drawings provided to me from Greenwood Engineering as part of my submittal, and that's my intentions of connection. So it should be based on your standards,
Okay.
and that's what I'm going to use. That's what I'm going to utilize for any quotes for having a professional do it.
Okay. Mark, anything in addition to what we've talked about here?
No, I would just like to clarify, we don't attach sump pumps to under drains necessarily. We do provide these lateral connections, so we'll stub out these Ys, these Ts from under drains and new subdivisions. And in fact, when we come back in, like on our annual paving program, we do curbs and run new under drain, we'll put these Ts out for sump pump connections. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to clarify, that was the point he made. But yes, we do have a standard for that, and that is what he's coordinated with us to do.
Any questions from the board?
I move for approval of those 3 conditions.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Chad, hope this helps your problem.
I appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Next, we're going to talk about the water line tap at Main Street and Meridian Street. You're not who I was expecting, but go ahead.
Oh, were you expecting Easement?
Yeah.
So I'm Jackie Byland, so I'll talk you through it today. So basically, as you guys are aware, we're doing work on Main Street. And in order to complete the tie-in, we actually need to close the intersection of Main and Meridian. So the storm work you see on here is the actual storm work that's planned as part of the city project. So our work needs to travel into the intersection to complete the offset under the planned work. I don't know, does this have like a, can I touch it? Oh, you can see it if I touch it? Kind of. Okay, so here we need, so part of the, that's okay. It's perfect, guys. So I'm not gonna touch it anymore. So basically, we're gonna go under the planned storm sewer here and then tap our main on Meridian Street. And we're gonna complete that work as part of a 2-day closure. We would like to complete that work as part of a 2-day closure starting next Tuesday. And then we would come back after we complete all our testing, disinfection, et cetera, and do the cut and tap work that you see kind of on the south part of the intersection. I did put a note in here, so we can't do all of this in one closure because then we would be able to maintain service to our customers. Because we disinfect like we disinfect all our new lines, we can't transfer everybody and retire them until we do that process. So it does require a 2-day closure. Now the second closure, we're gonna plan for a Saturday because of the bus routes, because school will be back in session, and that would just be a 1-day closure.
Questions for Jackie?
And I did provide, yeah, this is our planned detour route that O'Mara will set up the signage for.
I ask one question?
Sure, absolutely.
On the, you guys do pressure testing or something before you run water into it?
Yeah, so we're gonna use that tap
Uh,
to fill the main, we're gonna pressure test it, then we're gonna chlorinate it, dechlorinate it, take back teat samples, make sure the water is safe for people to drink. Then we will transfer them to the new line.
Will you know within those 2 days if it fails the pressure test?
We
Or would you have to come back and extend
Well,
this?
so yeah, so we won't know if it would fail the pressure test within those 2 days. And even if it failed the pressure test, it would likely not necessarily be within that intersection area because we're actually testing all the way to Madison. So, I mean, we could have them fill it. That could be a condition that we say, it's like basically fill it, let's see if we're seeing any water come up prior to. They are gonna build that offset, they're gonna build everything prior to us closing the intersection, just so we minimize that time. So we should be, so they're gonna, that decreases your risk of a leak, because when you're building it and you're not in the trench trying to bend over with an impact wrench, you know, much easier.
Sorry to put you on the spot, I just wanted to
Okay,
make
absolutely,
sure you
no,
all
I don't
understood
mind.
that there was the possibility that the 2-day closure could extend if there was issues with pressure testing,
How long?
right at that location.
Right, yeah, no, we likely would not, we would open it back up likely prior to the pressure test being complete. You know, just to give you an idea, pressure tests failing because of a leak are like, I feel like I should knock on wood before I, but they're fairly rare. I mean, this isn't like, it's not necessarily something that happens on a regular basis. They typically fail because of trapped air or things like that.
And this would be an open cut trench,
Yes.
so you get steel plated or something if you needed to.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And I should mention too, that the entire area of disturbances within the mill and overlay portion of the city project, so this entire area will get a mill and overlay.
Questions for Jackie? Is there a motion for on this matter one way or the other?
We approved the request for a two-day.
For phase one, how about for phase two? Is that going to be subject closure?
We put it for August 13th.
Okay, and,
One day.
yeah.
closure.
And one day closure.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Josh.
you.
Thank you. Josh Krivoar, Scottsdale Estates, Fair Construction Point. Josh, are you with us? Hello? See him there?
And it's just for some reason he's not, his microphone's not working, I don't think.
Talk to us about this.
Touch on the highlights if you'd like. This Scottsdale Estates, you approved several waivers from them several meetings back.
Josh, that you?
That is me.
Hi, Josh.
Oh,
Why don't you tell us what you want to do here at Scottsdale Estates?
I apologize. For some reason, my computer audio or microphone was not working.
That's okay.
So, yeah, to pick up where Mark was starting off, a month or two back, you guys approved a bunch of waivers for this storm sewer system here, just based on the way the ponds are laid out. One waiver that we overlooked to get was that we're releasing 90% volume of our pond volume within 48 hours of detention. So that's the waiver we're back here this evening seeking.
I don't have the application in front of me. What were the particulars of that request or release for that one?
So they're tied to a very specific release rate because their storm sewer discharges into, I believe is it Redwood or Lone Pine, Josh?
It's to the Redwood development.
Redwood development. So they're tied to a very specific release rate. They don't want to change that release rate. And so they can't meet, in order to meet the restoration to the ponds, they would have to increase their release rate, which would add more water to the downstream system, which it's not designed to take. So it would cause issues downstream. Really, we look at this 90% return within 48 hours. It's a factor of safety, essentially, in case there's two very large storms back to back. It would need there to be enough room in the ponds to store that water. These ponds are designed, there's one of the waivers you actually approved, they're actually over-designed, there's more capacity than what we require in them. And of course, there's emergency overflow routes and all that sort of stuff in case the worst happens.
So your office's recommendation that we grant the waiver request without any conditions?
Yes.
I'll move for approval.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, everybody. I apologize about the technical difficulties.
Don't worry about that.
Y'all have a great evening.
Me too. Anyone from the audience wish to talk to us? Mr. Petty? Evening, Todd.
Good evening. Or where I was notified on Friday that apparently there was an oversight on my part. That there were two vehicles budgeted for our fire department. We paid for out of our 2021 general obligation bond, which were the Ford Explorers for 2 models. I was able to find two because it's ordering pretty much done on. They're in order. They were still, I still make changes that we needed to adapt for our fire department. The vehicles coming out with my changes, the changes that I made to them,
at $31,289.92 each, and these are still being purchased off the Indiana State QPA. That'd be a total of $62,579.84. To get it done, I had mentioned the purchases by this morning to lock these up. So I'm asking the board to ratify the purchase of two 2022 Ford Explorers for the fire department at $31,289.92 each.
Thanks for agreeing to pay for that for the city.
What happens when you do it? Greg, it's on him, right? You're okay with it?
Yes, yeah, we have.
We're asking for forgiveness, not permission.
And you gotta go back and tell the people who didn't tell you until Friday that you needed this. Okay.
I move we approve the request.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
I have an audience request also, please.
Sure.
This is from the police department. The police department has a police dog named Max who's been misbehaving. They were unable to place the dog with any other agencies, and the request is to retire the dog to its handler, Sergeant Rush, rather than putting the dog down.
Move for approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is item. Actually have an action item.
Is there anyone else from the audience wish to address this?
Next up is item, I actually have I have an action item I need. We need for you to formally approve the semi-annual item report that was distributed.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
First up is a walk-on. This is the contract with GIS Benefits. GIS Benefits helps us comply with the ACA. It would be nearly impossible to do that without outside help. We had contracts with them in 18 and 19 and 20. 21, for whatever reason, didn't submit, so we need to authorize a 2021 indemnity agreement and also one for this year.
Include the amendment addendums to those agreements. correct?
Yes,
Can we do them together?
yes.
Is there a motion to approve the addendums for 2021 and 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay.
Next up is consideration of professional services agreement with Attorney Lynn Gray. This is for the Lynn to represent the city in a dispute over the use of a swimming pool. City legal staff assisted in the investigation and would be conflicted out as they may be witnesses.
I'll move that we approve the agreement with Lynn Gray as presented.
Second.
Only discussion of C4. Talks about on the second page, if you got it, it talks about the merit proceedings, so I'm not sure if this was just a.
I think that is something that she included from the last agreement, so we will fix that.
She already signed it, so I didn't,
Yeah.
didn't bother with it. Just wanted to make sure. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Next up is consideration of a utility easement with the Indiana American Water Company. This is an easement to serve exclusively the Worsford Road Sports Complex, and since we're the only beneficiary, we're not asking for any money for the easement. No need to.
We've gotten the utility easement agreement, well, I think we've got it a couple times today with the blank and then with the filled in
Yes.
portion. So is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And next up is another expenditure from the CDGB grant, the CARES Act money. And this again is Northeast Park, and this is for a precast concrete restroom facility. And this is bought through the Sourcewell folks we've used before for fire engines and things of that nature.
We have a memo or a question, actually a request for determination for special purchase of that PXG precast concrete facility. Correct?
Correct.
Is there a motion for approval?
I move we approve the request.
Second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I believe my final item is the legal department has a broken office chair and a spent shredder that we need to dispose of, and we don't believe they have any value.
So move for approval to dispose of that. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Mark?
Yes. I'm back before you again with a limited warranty deed from the Clark Pleasant CPSC for Raycrow Way. It's beginning to make my head spin on the back and forth on these. As you'll recall, there's three sections to Raycrow Way. This is the westernmost section, the original section that was constructed up against Sheep Road. The school board has approved it as a limited warranty deed, and so it's back again in our court because you originally accepted it as just a straight warranty deed.
Recommendation from legal, is there any issue here? that we need?
We don't have a card to play. We have to have that, so
Right.
I would suggest accepting it.
I move we approve the limited warranty deed with Park Pleasant Community School Corporation.
Second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Why do you?
But yes, it was. Paul was out last week. He's out this week, so I think that's why you guys have all these.
Great.
Nothing for me.
Okay. Well, Mr. Guy.
I'm here for
With
the,
the school corporation.
yes,
Okay.
just wanted to make sure if there were any questions about that. Thank you
Is
so much.
there one remaining warranty deed? Me and Amanda were just trying to figure this out. The central piece.
So that's an interesting question. Actually, I believe the central piece was platted appropriately. That's kind of how this happened, was it was acquired one way, it was created and platted a different way, and then there was this little silver in between that they needed to adjust. I think we're there now. I think this is the end of it.
So that central piece is platted right away.
I am not sure.
Okay.
So
I hate to put you on the spot, but we can talk.
To be clear, I'm Lisa Claiborne from Lennar Corporation, so I'm that person, the people who would be interested in the future right of way.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Rusty.
I'd move for approval of the claims.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all. We'll stand adjourned at 5:58 PM.